Jarrett Lerner. Jarrett Lerner lives with his wife and daughter and a cat in Medford, Massachusetts. He is relatively a private person with no other information on the internet to describe his past, but I would venture a guess in a former life he was some sort of educator. While Jarrett Lerner has only published one book to date, he is passionate about promoting STEM literacy. Nerds is simply the doorway through which students begin their STEM journey with Lerner. Readers are introduced to characters who pride themselves on being a part of a club that focuses on science. The characters must use their problem-solving and collaboration skills to figure out what to do with these robots that were sent from an anonymous source. The engineering design process is turned into an adventure with witty writing and fun projects that the characters create, such as rubber band and chopstick catapults. The Nerds have a process that promotes innovation that includes making a list of all the supplies they have on hand and what their common purpose is. Then they go back and make a second list of the same supplies and list all the less known or less common purposes. This helps them start imagining new and innovative ways to use their materials. As the cover illustrates, there's plenty of humor in this story. In the dialogue between characters Ken and Dan, and especially with those pellet-sized missiles coming out of the robot's backside. The chapters are also fairly short, with an emphasis on science and robots, and it seems ideal for a reluctant reader who wants to read a few pages at a time. Nerds also seems to tie in well with other STEM books designed to highlight innovation, science, and engineering. Nerds fans will be happy to know that Jarrett Lerner has a sequel, Revenge of the Nerds, due to come out in the winter of 2019. Once readers are hooked from reading the books, they can visit Lerner's website at jarrettlerner.com to access the author himself. He readily makes himself available to his readers, even providing free 30-minute virtual visits, including science demonstrations and suggestions for further reading. He's passionate about putting books in the hands of young children and often has giveaways on his blog. There are a couple of other places you can find Jarrett Lerner on the internet too. If you're on Twitter, look for him at @Jarrett_Lerner. Lerner is also the co-founder of mgbookvillage.org, which is a place for middle school students and book lovers to connect and discuss what they're reading. The Global Read Aloud was started by Pernille Ripp in 2010. Her idea was simple but bold and beautiful: to get as many kids in as many classrooms to read the same book and then connect with one another in order to share their thoughts and discuss. The GRA began small but quickly became enormous, and this year Nerds is nominated for the Book of the Year for the Global Read Aloud. Jarrett Lerner lives just outside of Boston, Massachusetts, and regularly visits schools in the New England area. But if your classroom is located further away, you can still feel free to reach out to him for in-person visits. He travels frequently to various places throughout the country, such as bookstores and author festivals seen here. On his website, Lerner states that he loves visiting classrooms and libraries, both in person and virtually via Skype, Google Hangouts, or FaceTime. In fact, Lerner was recently in Kansas to participate in the Nerd Camp Kansas activities. As you can see, many students love to follow the Nerds classroom guide provided on Lerner's website and then tweet out their activities and projects and experiments that they do and share them with the author himself. He recently held a contest to select a young writer that he could mentor. There were 100 applicants, and he was so impressed with all of the applications and wanted to encourage all the young writers, so he is personally responding to each applicant with the offer of a writing critique with him or a personal conversation on writing. Here you can see an example of Lerner Skyping into a classroom of students to discuss his book, Nerds. This is an educator/author who is passionate about contributing to the study of STEM and language arts and could be a wonderful resource for reluctant readers and timid scientists. So if you or a young reader in your classroom might be interested in reading about farting robots, belching knights, or other very serious matters, I highly recommend taking a look at author Jarrett Lerner.